So it was a really good day for the prosecution in the Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd. In short, it was a good day for justice. And justice matters. Hey y'all, Glenn Kirshner here. So let's do a quick recap of today's trial testimony in the Derek Chauvin case for the murder of George Floyd. Here's how the Washington Post summed it up. Headline: Senior officer rejects Chauvin's, quote, totally unnecessary use of force against George Floyd. Now, who was that senior officer? Well, it was a 30-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department, one of the senior-most police officers on the force. His name is Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman. And here is some of what Lieutenant Zimmerman told the jury today. He said, first of all, we are trained constantly on the fact that when you have somebody handcuffed behind their back and you put them on the ground in the prone position on their stomach, he told the jury, we must get them out of that prone position as soon as possible because it makes it difficult for them to breathe. Now, mind you, that's even before we're talking about the pressure that was being put on George Floyd's body by those officers, on his neck by Derek Chauvin. Lieutenant Zimmerman then said that putting pressure on somebody's neck with your knee is what we would call top-tier restraint or deadly force. That's a quote. So he told the jurors that Derek Chauvin used deadly force against George Floyd. And then what he said, he offered basically his conclusion regarding what he saw after reviewing all of the videotapes of the scene. He said that the force he saw Derek Chauvin use was, quote, totally unnecessary, close quote. He said it in another way. He said it was, quote, uncalled for, close quote. And he said that it, quote, absolutely should have stopped, close quote, once Mr. Floyd was on the ground, handcuffed behind his back in the prone position. So what is the import of Lieutenant Zimmerman's testimony? Because you might say, look, I saw the videotape. I can tell you it was wrong. And I think that's everybody's reaction. Why? Because it was wrong. Because we saw those police officers kill, murder George Floyd. However, there might be some jurors who look at the tape and they say, it looks wrong. I'm horrified by it. They seem to have killed George Floyd, but I'm not a police officer. I have no training in police tactics. I have no training in the level of restraint that police are allowed to use during the course of an arrest. So even though what I'm seeing with my own eyes looks bad, looks like murder, looks wrong, I'd like to know a little bit more from the police themselves about police procedures, about the rules of restraint, and Lieutenant Zimmerman gave that to the jurors. Virtually gave them permission to say, okay, this confirms from one of the senior-most law enforcement officers on the Minneapolis Police Department. It confirms what I see on that tape, that this was wrong, that it was unnecessary, that it was uncalled for, and that it absolutely should have stopped. It was really powerful testimony from a police officer who blew right through the thin blue line and spoke the truth about what Derek Chauvin and those other police officers did to George Floyd. Here are a couple other observations I have about what went on today in court. So it was reported out by some of the reporters who were in the courtroom that while Lieutenant Zimmerman was testifying, the jurors were taking copious notes. that's a good sign. Why do I say that? It's probably obvious, but after trying cases for 30 years, what I can tell you is that when jurors are really interested in a piece of testimony, when they're engaged, when they're perhaps persuaded by it, when they want to remember it, what they do is they pick up their pad and their pen and they start taking notes. But you know what I've also seen? When defense attorneys, or in fairness prosecutors, but I'm going to say when defense attorneys cross-examine a witness in a way that is not persuasive, or worse, it alienates, it upsets, it angers the jurors because maybe the defense attorney doesn't seem like he or she is either playing fair or being polite or respectful of the witness, asking a witness all about her drug use and what she and her boyfriend used to use and where they used to get their drugs. I mean, what did that have to do with whether Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd? That kind of cross-examination of Courtney Ross, George Floyd's longtime girlfriend. You know what I've seen jurors do when defense attorneys start going down those roads? They put their pad down, they cross their arms, they lean back in their juror chair, and you can read their body language and their facial expressions because they're not having any of it. But when they pick up that notepad and they lean forward and they start taking notes, that's generally a good thing for the side that has called that witness. In fact, can I tell you a little trick I used to use when I was a prosecutor? During my opening statement or my closing argument, if I had something that I was really hoping the jurors would write down. Why? Because when they write it down, they take those notes back into the deliberation room with them and they can look at it. So it's not just that they have to remember it, they have something to refer to refresh their recollection when they're deliberating. I might say during my argument, folks, let me just make one point that I think is really important in the context of the testimony of witness Jones. And if you would find it helpful, feel free to take notes. When you say that, in my experience, there's almost this knee-jerk reaction when somebody says feel free to take notes. You just kind of pick up your pad, if you weren't holding it, and your pen, just in case it's about to be something you want to take down and remember. So I would say that when there was something I was hoping the jurors would write down and take with them to the deliberations. So here's the other thing that I think the prosecution did extraordinarily well, and I'm going to leave you with this today. When you're going into a weekend, when you've been in trial all week, and your trial will continue in the following week and perhaps the week after that, when you're sending the jury home on a Friday afternoon, you want to send them home strong. You want to give them some testimony that they can remember and mull over, not talk about because they can't discuss the case with anybody else until they're deliberating, but something that will hopefully stick with them, that will resonate, that will have an impact. And boy, did Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman's testimony have an impact today. And that is the testimony that what Derek Chauvin did was wrong, absolutely wrong, totally unnecessary. That kind of testimony will rattle around in the jurors' minds over the course of the weekend. So I thought the prosecution had a very good day today. And in my view, what that means is justice had a very good day today, because we are all watching and waiting for justice for George Floyd and his family and the community and our country, because justice matters. Folks, as always, thank you for watching these daily videos. I want to give you a quick update because tomorrow we will be putting in the mail the letter that Team Justice has drafted to all 50 state attorneys general and the Attorney General for the District of Columbia, CC'd to all of the governors and Mayor Bowser in D.C., I always hasten to add, at least until D.C. becomes a state, as well it should be. We are mailing out those letters to all 50 state attorneys general tomorrow, demanding, urging, insisting that their law enforcement authorities open investigations into the preventable COVID-19 deaths caused by Donald Trump and Jared Kushner and Mike Pence and others in the Trump administration, because we will not forget that Donald Trump and company needlessly caused Americans to die, probably to the tune of hundreds of thousands, given the medical journal reports, given the expert reports that are coming out. And so we here at Team Justice put together a letter. It's being mailed tomorrow. We've had tens of thousands of signatories on that letter from every state in the nation, and we will not rest until Trump and company are held accountable for their crimes. If you'd like to become more formally involved, you can come over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron. You can join Team Justice proper. We're working on a number of democracy projects, justice projects over there. And if you do choose to become a patron, I will send you some Team Justice stickers and a personal note of thanks. But one way or another, we are always hoping that folks will join in our fight for democracy, join in our fight for voting rights. We're working on another project on the voting rights front, given the horrors that we are seeing in this proposed and even passed legislation in the state legislatures. We're going to take that on too, because it's up to us. It's up to us. We know the Constitution can't support and defend itself. It's up to us. It's not up to the politicians. It's up to us. And we're up to the challenge. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.